You wake up with a heavy feeling in your chest, not despair, not joy, just a dull, lifeless weight. You drag yourself through the morning, commute through traffic, and sit in meetings that mean nothing to you. You tell yourself it is not that bad. The pay is fine, the work is tolerable, and then you could have it worse, right? But here is the real danger. Not that bad is the real prison. Psychologists call this the region beta paradox. The strange truth that people stuck in moderate discomforts are less likely to change their lives than the people who hit rock bottom. Why? Because mild misery feels survivable. And because it feels survivable, you never move, you tolerate, you endure it, and slowly you die in silence. And if you stay with me, I will show you why quitting your job might be the most important step that you will ever take, because surviving is not the same as living. There is an old story about a farmer in China. He worked every day on the fields of a wealthy landlord. Before sunrise, he bent his back under the weight of another man's wealth. At night, exhausted, he dreamed of owning his own land, planting crops that would feed his family instead of someone else's land. But he stayed. He told himself, it is not so bad. At least I have food. At least I have work. One day, a wandering sage stopped at the fields and asked the farmer why he looked so heavy with sorrow. The farmer admitted his longing for freedom, but he confessed that if I leave, I might lose everything. At least here I survive. And the sage studied his blistered hand and said, you call this survival, but your soul is starving. And this story is about us. Most people are not in unbearable agony at work. They are not starving in the streets. They are fine. And that is exactly why they stay. The region beta paradox explains it perfectly. If your job is unbearable, if it was pure torment, you would leave. Pain forces change, but when the pain is tolerable, you endure it forever. And that is the cruel irony. Your job being not that bad is the very reason that you may never escape it. And so year after year, people tolerate the slow leak of their lives. Their spirit weakens, their dreams gather in dust, but the salary keeps them numb enough to stay. Society even rewards this misery. We celebrate the man who stays in the same company for 30 years, even if every year has been hollow. We mistake fear for stability and endurance for virtue. But here is the cost. Your energy, your time, your creativity, and your one irreplaceable life. They are traded away for survival, not for freedom, not for joy, not for success, but for the illusion of safety. The farmer knew this deep inside, that his life was passing him by. But because his suffering was not catastrophic, he states, how many of us are doing the same thing right now? Quitting your job is not just walking away from a paycheck. It's about refusing to stay in the region beta, the twilight zone where pain is tolerable, but life is unfulfilled. The moment you quit, you declare that I refuse to survive on scraps. I will build my own fields. I will lead my own story. Quitting is not reckless. It is not irresponsible. It is the first act of responsibility to yourself. Before you can plant new seeds, you must first leave the soil that is not yours. But fear will not let go easily. Fear will whisper that, what if I fail? What if I regret this? What if I cannot survive? These questions are powerful, and they keep millions chained to lives that they secretly despise. Fear is the silent warden of the region beta paradox. It does not scream. It does not threaten. It whispers and says, stay here. It is not that bad. At least you are safe. And that whisper is enough to keep millions of people trapped in their jobs that they do not love, living lives that they do not want, quietly bleeding their time away. The farmer stared at the sage, gripping the soil with his calloused hands. If I leave, he said, I might starve, but at least here I survive. And the sage shook his head. Survival is not life. You are breathing, but you are not alive. You are chained to fear, and fear will always convince you that staying in misery is safer than stepping into freedom. And the farmer lowered his gaze. The sage was right. He hated the work. He hated the endless labor for another man's farm. Yet he told himself that it is not so bad. His body survived, but his spirit has withered away. And still, he clung to the only thing that he knew. How many of us are living like that farmer? We tell ourselves stories like, I cannot quit until I have more savings. I cannot quit until I know exactly what comes next. I cannot quit because it might not work out. But here is the irony: the longer you stay, the less energy you have to ever leave. The job drains you year after year, months after months, until you become too tired to even dream. The region beta paradox makes the cage feel comfortable enough that you stop rattling the bars. But safety here is an illusion. It is like sitting in a boat that is slowly sinking. And the leak is small, but every day the water rises. And by the time you notice you are drowning, it is too late. We fear failure after quitting more than anything. Running out of money, being humiliated, being laughed at by other people, falling flat on our face. But what we do not realize is that failure after quitting is alive. It belongs to you. It forces you to adapt, to grow, to find new ways. Every stumble outside the cage strengthens you. Meanwhile, success inside the job is far more dangerous. You climb the ladder, get the raise, the promotion, the recognition. People clap for you. Your parents are proud. Your colleagues admire you. But in the silence of the night, you know that you are climbing the wrong mountain. And this is not success. That is a slow funeral, decorated with a paycheck. Better to fail chasing your own dream than to succeed in burying it. Why do we fear living? Because living strips away identity. Inside the job, you know who you are. You are the teacher, the nurse, the doctor, the accountant, the manager. And once you quit, you become something terrifying, undefined. And in the world obsessed with labels, and the undefined is treated like a threat. But the undefined is also powerful. It is unlimited. It means that you are free to create, free to explore, free to finally live. And the sage told the farmer, you fear losing your place here, but you do not say that staying here has already cost you your place in life. Better to lose comfort and gain yourself than to keep comfort and lose everything. Psychologists call this the loss aversion, the tendency to fear losing what we already have more than the value of what we could gain. It is why the farmer clung to the landlord's land. This is why millions cling to mediocre jobs. But what we do not see is that the bigger loss is happening quietly every day. The loss of years, the loss of vitality, the loss of our one and only chance to live fully. The farmer stood at crossroads, remained in tolerable misery of region beta, and stepped into the terrifying unknown of freedom. Most of us stand at that same edge, convincing ourselves that later we will act, later we will change, later we will enjoy life. But later never comes. Quitting your job is not the end, it is the beginning. And beginnings are never calm, they are scary. And the moment you step outside the cage, the air feels so open, the ground too unstable, the silence too loud. At first, you will feel the fear more intensely than ever before. But do not mistake this fear for failure. It is the trembling of your soul adjusting to freedom. The farmer finally decides to leave with nothing but a small sack of rice and trembling hands. He stepped away from the landlord's land. For the first time, the horizon was open. And for the first time, there was no master waiting with orders. But with freedom came chaos. He wandered from village to village, uncertain where his next meal would come. His body ached, his stomach growled, and fear whispered, "Go back. At least there you are surviving." And every step forward felt heavier than the last. But one night, sitting hungry under the stars, the farmer noticed something strange. For the first time in years, he felt alive. Fear was real, yes, but so was the sky above him. His life was his own, and in that moment, he realized that chaos was not the enemy. It was the proof that he had finally broken free from the prison that he has been for all these years. This is what most people misunderstand. They believe that quitting should feel liberating right away. They imagine sunshines, creativity, instant success. But in reality, it feels like falling into the ocean without knowing how to swim because you are trying something new and you don't know how to act on it. You trash, you gasp, you panic. But the struggle is not failure, it is the process of learning and to move into a new element. Uncertainty is not a sign that you made the wrong choice. It is a sign that you are alive, no longer anesthetized by the routine. The chaos is your teacher. And here is the paradox. Clarity does not come before the leap. It comes after. Inside the job, you wait for the perfect plan. You tell yourself that once I know exactly what to do, then I will quit this job. But the truth is, the plan only appears after you step into the unknown. The farmer could not discover his strength until he left the landlord's fields. The path only revealed itself once he began walking. And it is the nature of freedom. It demands movement before certainty. Think of chaos as soil. It looks messy, dark, and unstable, but it is in this soil that seeds grow. When you quit, your life feels uprooted. But it is precisely this upheaval that allows new roots to take hold. Every fear, every doubt, every sleepless night becomes the ground from which your future rises. In the cage of a job that you hate, there is no soil. There is only concrete. Nothing grows there. That is why leaving feels terrifying, because it is also the first time in years that growth becomes possible. The sage told the farmer, do not fear the emptiness. The field looks barren now, but only in the emptiness can seeds be planted. Only in chaos can life be renewed. And so the farmer pressed on. The first harvest would not come tomorrow. It would take seasons of work, seasons of uncertainty. But every day, away from the landlord's fields, from that prison, he felt his spirit returning. He was no longer surviving, he was creating. Quitting is not comfortable. It is not meant to be comfortable. Comfort is the cage that you left behind. What awaits after quitting is uncertainty that forces you to grow, to sharpen your instincts, to awaken the parts of yourself that you never knew existed. And the truth is simple. Without chaos, there is no transformation. Without leaving the region better, you will endure forever, which is far worse than failing. The farmer's journey shows us what awaits. Not instant glory, but the messy, beautiful struggle of life that is yours. And in that struggle lies the foundation of real success. But here is the question. How do you move through the chaos without being swallowed by fear? How do you turn uncertainty into creation instead of collapse? And that is where the final part of this journey begins. The farmer pressed forward season after season, planting seeds in unfamiliar soil. Some crops failed, some were destroyed by the storm. At times, he went hungry, but slowly, the land began to change. Shoots appeared, roots deepened, and with each season, the farmer felt himself growing alongside with his crops. One evening, years later, he looked out at his own field, not the landlord's field, not borrowed, not stolen, but his own. His hands were still blistered, his back still bent, but this time his labor was alive with meaning. He was creating. He was free from that prison. The sage words echoed in his mind. Survival is not life. This story is not about a farmer in China. It's about most of us. Most never take that first step because their suffering is not bad enough. They live in a region better, where tolerable misery keeps them chained to jobs that they do not love, lives that they do not want, people that they don't like, and dreams that they never pursue. The region beta paradox explained why so many die in quiet desperation, because it is easier to endure good enough than to risk the unknown. But tolerating misery is not living, it is a slow erosion of yourself. Real success begins the moment you refuse to settle. And that means quitting, not recklessly, not thoughtlessly, but courageously. Quitting your job is not about laziness or rebellion. It's about reclaiming your life from the hands of fear, from the hands of other people. It is about declaring that I will not spend my only life building another man's wealth. I will plant my own fields. Even if they fail at first, I will create something that belongs to me. It is the act of stepping out of the region beta and into the chaos where transformation becomes possible. People think that success is about comfort, control, and certainty. But comfort is the enemy of growth. Control is an illusion, and certainty is a prison. Real success is about movement, about risk, about creation. It's about having the courage to fail on your own path rather than succeed on someone else's. The farmer's crops did not bloom overnight. Your life will not either, but each stumble after quitting is a step toward awakening parts of yourself that could never emerge in the cage of a steady paycheck. Look at your own life right now. Do you feel alive, or are you merely enduring? Are you building your own field, or are you still pouring your sweat and tears into another man's life? If the answer is uncountable, good. That discomfort is the seed of change. That discomfort is the whisper telling you that you are far more. You do not wait until things get unbearable. Do not wait until the cage rusts around you. The region beta paradox means that if you stay in the not that bad, you may never leave at all. The time is now. Quitting is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the clearing of the soil, the opening of the sky, the first true breath after years of suffocation. Yes, fear will come. Yes, chaos will follow, but fear is proof that you are alive. Chaos is proof that you are free. And from that soil, something extraordinary can grow, something that is yours. The first step towards success is not working harder in a job that you hate. It is having the courage to quit, to walk away from tolerable misery, and to step into the terrifying, beautiful unknown. Because surviving is not living, and life is too short to spend it building someone else's dream.